Good morning, and thank you for joining us for Top of the Morning. We're so happy to have you here with us. Today we've got a good show lined up. We're going to visit with Mayor Stan Booker. Mayor's going to talk about Armed Forces Day and what it's like to be the mayor of a military town. After that, we're going to sit down and visit with Clarence Fortney, who's the director of the FISTA Authority. And Clarence is going to explain to us all the positive impacts the FISTA is going to have on Lawton Fort Sill. So thank you for joining us. Top of the Morning. Good morning and welcome to Top of the Morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a very special guest, the mayor of Lawton Fort Sill, Stan Booker. And Stan, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm kind of wonderful. Thank you for asking. How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing great. I want you to know, if I ever ask you how you're doing and you're not some kind of wonderful, that's going to really trouble me. And probably all of Lawton Fort Sill, because your optimism carries the whole community.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. What really thrills me is when I ask somebody how they're doing and they answer some kind of wonderful.
There you go. And maybe there'll be a day when we'll all share that sentiment. We certainly hope so. Stan, I saw you yesterday at the Armed Forces Day parade. I thought it was a wonderful event. What was your take?
I'll tell you what, it was a lot of fun. And it was fun because I feel like we just wanted to be a community, and everybody there really had this passion to be there. I mean, they were not just passionate about the military, which obviously was the focal point, was Armed Forces Day, but they were passionate to be a community, and that was really special. It made that parade very, very special for Lawton Fort Sill.
Yeah, I certainly could feel that. People were very proud of Lawton Fort Sill and proud of our community, and there was a bond there. You could feel it. A lot of warmth, a lot of love yesterday. It was a pleasure to be there and be part of that. Stan, I have to ask you, how do you feel about being the mayor of a military town? And the biggest part of this question is this: do you feel that you have responsibilities that a mayor in another town, a non-military town, does not have?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to tell you, I love being the mayor of a military town. And probably on the very top of my list is going to Fort Sill to change of commands and events at Fort Sill where I get to engage with the military and get to see their culture. You know, everybody in the military is a volunteer, and they volunteered to defend our country. That's special to me, and it's more special the older I get to see these young people. Now I got to tell you a story, and I hope we have time. They invited me out to shoot the MLRS, and that was a lot of fun, and it's something I'll never forget. But the best part of the day was when we went into a tent. It was like 100 degrees outside. And we go into a tent and we're gonna eat MREs, right? And I'm supposed to visit with the soldiers, and it dawns on me, these are 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that have volunteered for me. The older I get, the more that means to me. Now, special responsibility. I'm going to tell you, I was raised in Lawton, and I still remember when I moved here, and the glass in the schoolroom above the hallway, there was glass, and it would rattle, and nobody paid any attention to it but me, because they just lived with what we call the sound of freedom, the shells going off. Yeah. And before long, I got used to that, and I didn't even hear it. And growing up in a military town, you absolutely learn patriotism like I believe you differently than if you don't. So I've always thought Lawton Fort Sill was the most patriotic town in the country. And I think we show it. And the parade was a very special showing of how proud we are of the military and how proud we are to be Americans. But I think it goes even further than that, Nate. When you talk about the responsibility that we have, and our responsibility comes down to the responsibility to the families that are at Fort Sill, the soldiers and the families. And I've got to give kudos to General Camper for what he's done to bring the community and the Fort Sill community closer together, and he calls it Team Lawton Sill. I love that. And what we're doing there is trying to make sure that these soldier families, the soldiers and their families, understand that this community is there for them. That's important. I was at a change of command just last week for the 313, and Lieutenant Colonel Ward is the incoming commander, and in 2 weeks, that unit of, I'm gonna say 250, 300 soldiers will be deploying, and they'll be leaving behind their families.
Yeah.
And I want those families to know that this community cares about them, and that we will do what we need to do to support them. And I shared that with the wife, with the commander's wife, that this community's there. If there's a challenge, you get a hold of me, this community will come together and meet that challenge for our deployed families.
That's hugely important. And I can tell you, as a soldier who deployed from here and then came back to live here, that everything you're saying is so important. You could talk to a lot of other veterans, retirees in the community, and they would echo what I'm about to say. When I took a brigade to Iraq, the community, this community, Lawton Fort Sill, took great care of our families every time. I mean, it was amazing to me. We had a fire, a family had a fire in their house, and when I heard about it in Iraq, what I heard was, don't worry about this, we've got it. We're taking care of these people. You have more important things to worry about. We've got this.
That's great.
You know, and it blew me away, Stan. I mean, it really did. I just thought, that's such a wonderful message. And it helped us with the mission. You know, the soldiers on the ground knew they were from a caring community, so they could focus more on what they had to do. And then back here, the families felt safer because they knew they were in a caring community that would help them and would do the things they had to do to make sure that they were safe and they had a good life while we were deployed. They took care of everything. I was so impressed by that when I got ready to retire from the Army, and my wife and I talked about, where's home? You've been in the Army 30 years. You've been away from where you grew up a long time, you know, and you have to sit down and say, what feels like home? And what felt like home was Lawton Fort Sill. So you're spot on. You know, taking care of the soldiers and their families and making sure people feel comfortable. It's such an important responsibility, and it means so much to me as a citizen of this community that it resonates with you the way that it does. That's very important. Take care of those families. And I would say to the community at large, the other effect it has is you have more veterans stay here who feel like this is home, and they stay here. And yesterday, you know, as I walked around talking to people I knew and talking to veterans, many of them shared that they didn't grow up in Lawton, but they're Lawtonians now. I mean, they're all in. They're Lawtonians. And why? Because it's a special community and that special caring. Yeah. Now, I didn't mean to go on about that so long, but this one's close to me.
Yeah, so I'm glad you did. And I want to tell you, I think that's one of the special features that the military's brought to Lawton Fort Sill is that we're an accepting community. We see soldiers come in, we get to know them, we bond, and they leave. They're transferred. Sometimes they come back here, sometimes they don't. And that's made us a community that's very accepting of culture and diversity. So I think that's neat, and I'm glad to know that military families feel it.
And they do, Stan. Stan, thank you so much for coming and visiting with us. It's always a great pleasure.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
And I really appreciate your comments and your heartfelt concern for soldiers and their families. It means a lot to me, it means a lot to our community. Thank you all for joining us out there for Top of the Morning. We hope you'll stay with us. Next up is Clarence Fortney, who is the chair of the FISTA Authority, and he's going to share with us why he thinks that FISTA is so very important to Lawton Fort Sill. Top of the Morning. Good morning, Top of the Morning viewers. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have Clarence Fortney with us, the Superintendent of Great Plains Technology Center. Clarence, thank you so much for making time to join us.
You're very
really
welcome.
appreciate that.
You're very
I know how busy you are. And we're here today to talk about the FISTA, the Fires Innovation, Science and Technology Accelerator. But before we go there, Clarence, you are the Superintendent of Great Plains Technology Center.
Yes.
And many of our viewers won't know what that means. If you would please talk a little bit about what Great Plains Technology Center does and what the superintendent does.
Okay. Well, Great Plains Technology Center is celebrating its 50th year in the Lawton Fort Sill community, and really we touch high school students and adult students in all of Comanche County, Tillman County, southern half of Kiowa County, and western half of Cotton County. All the partner schools that are in those geographic areas attend either our Lawton campus or Frederick campus. We have programs everywhere from auto body to welding, and we have nursing programs, rad tech, surgical technology. But we also have a side of our operation that helps business and industry to be successful. And one we're real proud of is our industrial maintenance training with Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And we are their sole training provider for their industrial maintenance program. So,
That's impressive.
yeah. Now, as a superintendent, my responsibility is to try to help and give our staff and faculty the resources they need to be able to perform and do their job. I have a 5-member board. They're elected, and they're the individuals that I answer directly to. But really, I have 175 bosses who are our employees on staff that help keep our school operational and keep it functioning each and every day. So that's part of what my responsibilities are, is to help them do their job and be more efficient in their operation or doing their job.
What do you enjoy the most about being the superintendent of Great Plains Technology Center?
Well, I mentioned the staff, the people that I work with, great minds and trying to do what's right to support our students. The other is being involved in our community. There's a lot of community leaders, and a mentor that I had, Jim Nesbitt, was a former superintendent 2 superintendents ago. I always describe it this way. I was in the right place at the right time. I was in his office, and he had a letter from United Way. And he said, Clarence, you need to get involved in United Way. And I thought, there's no way. I don't have time. But one of the best things that happened, because that gave me an opportunity to connect with individuals in our community. It's about building relationships and making sure that you connect with individuals and help individuals. And was real involved with United Way during that time, and actually was chairman for a year. So it was very rewarding to be able to do that. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that,
Yeah.
and for everything you do at Great Plains and across the community. Obviously, you and I have been friends for a number of years now, and I know how busy you are in the community and how many different roles you have held in the community in supporting the community, and we greatly appreciate that. Today we're discussing your volunteer role as the chairman of the board for the FISTA Authority. This is really unique. First ever.
Yep.
And would you please describe the purpose of the FISTA Authority to our audience? Now, this, they have heard on this show people describe what the FISTA is and what it's supposed to do, because that helps a little bit here.
Okay.
But the FISTA Authority, what does it do? What's its role in all of this?
Okay. Well, it's actually operates under the City of Lawton, and it's a FISTA Development Trust Authority. It's a 9-member board, and the 9 members represent different parts of our community. Our responsibility is to oversee and provide guidance and direction, particularly with the recent purchase of the mall. And then with the mall has a retail component to it, but there are spaces inside the mall that we're going to build out for defense contractors. So we're really providing that guidance and oversight to make sure that the dollars are spent in an appropriate way. We're looking at funding options that could expand the operation of the mall, and then also looking to recruit businesses, particularly DoD contractors that could potentially move in. So we have, and it's one of those things, having the opportunity to serve on several different boards. This is a working board. It's one that I find myself spending easily an hour or two a day, taking phone calls late at night, especially as we're beginning to start up the operation of the mall. So it's every day is a new challenge, but challenges provide opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Clarence, when the idea of the FISTA first came up, now we're way past the idea now, is we're up and running. But what were your first thoughts about this opportunity? When you first heard about the FISTA, the notion, the concept?
Well, if I can go back just a little bit before the FISTA, and it's really when we were on that trip to DC and we heard about cross-functional teams, and we started talking about that 2 of those cross-functional teams will be at Fort Sill. That sold me from that point in time, because communities don't have that as an opportunity. And what opportunity, what would we be able to do to move forward and support those 2 cross-functional teams? Well, if you take those 2 cross-functional teams, then the vehicle that, the process began, okay, what can we do to support them? Well, then the FISTA came about, and actually it was under the Lawton Economic Development Corporation originally when it started up. And I'm on that board as well, and Ron Nance asked if I would mind chairing that, and it wasn't part of the city at that point in time, but working through that process, really you could see opportunities like we've not had in a long, long time. I remember when Goodyear announced that they were coming to the Lawton Fort Sill community. I was in high school at that time and realized the importance and the significance of that type of an organization moving to our community. And then I think about the FISTA and what we are doing in trying to recruit and bring defense contractors, high-tech jobs to the community. I thought, this has the potential to have that same type of impact to our community, particularly with the high skill, high wage that would come with those positions to support those 2 cross-functional teams out at Fort Sill. Very important. One of the things that I've always kind of in the back of my mind thought, what if we did nothing? Where would we be? And I can't go there. And so have to give time, effort, energy, and some resources to be able to try to make and move that forward. And that's always been our goal.
Yeah, the mayor's always made that case too. Not doing anything is not an option.
Yeah.
And his work with the TIF and the CIP and those things to help facilitate this, are all about that vision of moving forward.
Sure. Well, those are things that really help to catapult or move this forward. If those things had not been in place, I'm not sure where we would be. Those have helped us to be able to springboard or move forward and looking at other options as we continue to expand and create options for those defense contractors.
Yeah, I'm not sure that everyone fully understands the impact of that, but as you say, hugely important.
Sure.
From your perspective, Clarence, what are the biggest challenges in standing up research and development in science and technology, an R&D and S&T facility?
Okay. Well, first is designing the space that the companies or organizations are going to need to use to be able to do the research and development and the science and technology to go into it. The other is, the challenges for us will be to look at the individuals that we need to put in those positions. And that's where I think Great Plains can provide some support, because we are a technical training institution. And still, I'm eager to talk to our partners who will have a presence in the FISTA to know what type of skill sets those individuals need, so we can begin crosswalking those. and trying to fill those positions and make sure that we meet the needs of those industries as they come in. Actually, as recently as this week, had an opportunity to visit with a defense contractor, and for the first time, they talked about welding, and that's my background, so I could connect instantly with what he was talking about, what skill sets he needed, and so that excited me today, or this week, when we heard that discussion about the skill sets that they needed. So I think that's where we, as a school, play an important part and a vital part to help those organizations meet those needs, particularly with the skilled workforce as they move them in and set shop up in the Lawton Fort Sill community.
Yeah, Great Plains Technology Center is going to be a huge player going forward. You just got a great opportunity to have a very positive impact on the FISTA. How do you see these high-tech jobs transforming Lawton Fort Sill?
Well, in a lot of ways. One, we'll have subject matter experts that we've not had here previously. I think what it'll do is that will create a catalyst to draw other people in and smart minds, work with other smart minds. I think Cameron University, as they expand their operation, Great Plains Technology Center, we have a pre-engineering program that as a high school student we can begin working with those students to move forward. So I think as you bring those players to our community, it'll strengthen who we are as a community, make it viable, and create an opportunity for us to continue to expand even to other areas that we haven't even heard of or thought of. Now, I can tell you, it's one of those things where an idea or a thought or an organization calls you, and then pretty soon another organization calls and they're interested, and then you begin to see what the effect is, and it's almost that ripple effect in that pond. It starts out small, but pretty soon you start connecting the dots with others, and you start identifying ways that these organizations can actually collaborate in certain areas. Because one may have an area in the fuel side of it, where the other may have a systems operation to be able to manage that. So put those two together, and then you've got the makings of a partnership that really provides us the opportunity to work better with those two cross-functional teams at Fort Sill, which strengthens our defense, strengthens our resolve as a country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great the way that you all, Great Plains Technology Center, have lashed up with Cameron for this engineering, as Cameron grows its engineering program.
Yes. Well, and I think it's a combination of all of us. And I have an adage that we're all in this together. And the other thing I say is we, and I use Great Plains as the we can't be to all. So we can't be the sole provider. So it's going to take all of us partnering and working. Cameron University, Lawton Public Schools, but also have outlying schools in our community. It's Cache, Elgin, Sterling, Fletcher, Indiahoma, Geronimo. Our Fletcher, our Frederick campus also has schools that they work with. Those communities will be a major player in helping provide and providing that workforce, not only for the individual or companies that are in the FISTA, but also with Goodyear and other industries that we have in the Lawton Fort Sill community.
And it's a great segue to the next question, which is about STEM education.
Yeah.
How do you see STEM playing in all this?
It's very important. It's one of those things where STEM connects and ties to pretty much every aspect of our life. And if you look at the students, and just take engineering as one area of focus. If you look at that engineering, look at the institutions or college universities that offer, they can't produce enough. And so my goal, and I've always said this, is that my goal would be that our students that graduate out of pre-engineering would be able to go to an institution of their choice, whether it be Cameron, Oklahoma State University, and once they finish that degree, they would have a place of employment that they would want to, if they choose, to come home. And that's what I see the FISTA being able to do, is provide that connectivity to our community so that our young men and women, we're not exporting them to other communities. They want to come back to the Lawton Fort Sill. Now, on a personal note, I have 4 granddaughters, and they live in the Lawton Fort Sill community. I want them to make Lawton their home of choice,
and
would sure like to be able for them to stay here because I'm getting old, and gray-haired, and I want to make sure that my granddaughters are around to help take care of me as I get older. That's my number one goal. So that's my selfish goal.
No, that's completely understandable.
Yeah.
Well, we've worked STEM here hard a long time, and we've said the high title associates.
Yeah.
That if we can bring in high-tech jobs so that the kids that took advantage of the National Math and Science Initiative and other STEM programs could get a good job locally, come right back into the community and have a good high-paying job, it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I have to mention that Lawton Fort Sill is the STEM city of Oklahoma.
It is.
Because we should say that every chance we get. That's a huge achievement.
It is.
And we need to celebrate that as a community that took years of work.
Yeah.
And there's years of work yet to be done. You and I recently visited about the Lawton Fort Sill STEM Consortium.
Yep.
And one of these days we'll do a show about that.
We will. That'll be cool. That'll be great.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And lastly, Clarence, what message do you have for our viewers concerning the FISTA and the way ahead?
Okay. Well, and here's, and I was reminded of this the other day, the City of Lawton working with the FISTA Trust Authority purchased the mall January the 5th. January 5th, and that's only been 4.5 months, no, actually 3.5 months. And so we've covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. We still have a long way to go, but I can tell you that the Trust Authority is working hard and working diligently to try to move forward. We've got individuals not only locally but at the Capitol, at the federal level, that are helping us and looking at opportunities for us to grow this. And I just want to share that I'm committed to make sure that we move forward, and the 8 other board members are working diligently to make sure that we're moving forward to make sure that this comes to a point in time that we can move the first defense contractor in and start building our first system as appropriate for one of the 2 cross-functional teams out at Fort Sill.
Well, Clarence, thank you so much for volunteering to lead the FISTA Authority and for your time to join us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nate.
And to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Top of the Morning. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.